When I was a year 5 student, I was the laziest piece of shit you would ever see. I would do absolutely no work, and all I did was game. Heck, I even brought my laptop to school just to play Valorant. Of course, my grades were shit, but not bad enough to vomit blood. And because of that, I didn't change anything. I took no action to fix my situation. And the next year, the content got harder, but my skills stayed the same. And I got so many single-digit grade papers that you could just hang them on the calendar. And I guess that was enough of a wake-up call to make me actually put in more effort and experiment with different tactics and strategies. Although I still didn't do enough practice. But regardless, there was finally a change. After 17 years of doing nothing, I finally woke up and decided to change. A wise man once said, God gives us chances to repent, but we choose not to take the easy way out and think we can get away with it. Thus, we only learn when we get heavily punished. It is a bit like Peter Griffin getting away with drunk driving and then continuing to do that until he slams his car into a tree and it explodes. The thing is, I wish that doing work would just be easier. That I didn't need to have that wake-up call of the shitty grades to start putting in effort. But we all know the consequences of procrastination. And yet, we still put the work till the end and we suffer because of it. And I'm sure you didn't need me to mention it to you. You have paid the price before by rushing through past year papers and end up just copying the answers just because you had no more brain cells left after watching so many shows, playing so many games until midnight. And those days will continue to happen. And those days will feel like hell if nothing changes. How do we turn work into a habit so we can finish it as early as possible? We break it into smaller steps. If 2 hours of calculus is an overwhelming task, we should start by making sitting down at the desk with the work open as a habit. Imagine a familiar scenario where you are just scrolling mindlessly on your phone, watching the next Kermit the Frog video, and suddenly you had that thought that maybe you should start on that math assignment that was due a week ago. And as much as you don't have a time machine to go back in time to do it, the best time to do it is probably now. But that just feels too daunting, too overwhelming. How could you possibly get up from your seat and do 2 hours of math? And my mentor once said that in coding, you need to divide and conquer. And that is what we are going to do here. Could you at least look away from the screen? Yeah, probably. And then press the power button to switch off the device. Seems simple, right? And then just get off the couch and walk to your desk. Sit down at your desk and just open up the questions of the assignment. Tell yourself you are just going to try one question for 2 minutes, or maybe even just read the questions, and then promise yourself that you will go back to lazing around right after the 2 minutes, just 2 minutes. After the 2 minutes, if you still decide that you are not ready to do the work, you know what? Just go back to the couch and play Dragon Ball Legends or watch the next episode of your favorite gangster show. But hey, at least you tried. And maybe on some occasions, you will get the momentum and start doing it for 10 minutes. Or maybe actually complete the whole hour of work once you got into that flow. And that's perfect. All we wanted to do is get into the momentum of doing work. And hey, even if you stopped at 2 minutes of work, if the math is right, it's still more than 0 minutes of work. So try it and thank me later. The next few things are about increasing the number of days that you have the right state of mind and have the mental capacity to actually do the work. Firstly, you can try intermittent fasting, which is not eating in the morning when you wake up, when your brain is the freshest, and do the work, or at least get the most important parts of the work done. Or if that is really too extreme for you, just don't eat carbohydrates before you work, and especially avoid sugars, at least for this period of time. At least from personal experience, eating carbohydrates before work is basically asking for a nap time. Secondly, which you should already be doing, is to schedule what you're gonna do for the next day. And if you're like me, and just want to schedule 1 to 2 tasks loosely in the Google Calendar, then just do it. It's way better than nothing. If you're gonna pack it very full, always give buffer time for when things go wrong. And lastly, probably the most simple and important one is to optimize your environment. Imagine you were just doing work on the computer and suddenly when you open a new tab, your YouTube recommendation just shows you a new cat video, and suddenly you just have the desire to watch it. And before you know it, you end up spending 2 hours not doing work. This is also known as the cookie jar effect. If there's a cookie jar right in front of your face, it doesn't matter whether you had the desire to eat cookies in the first place. You would have to spend willpower to not eat it. So why not just remove the cookie jar? And the way we can do that for the internet is to use website or ad blockers. Well, personally, for YouTube, I would use Unhook. It's a Google Chrome extension, just like block sites, which is basically for everything else. And next up would be to give yourselves incentives to complete the task. Because if there's no intrinsic value in the task, sometimes the work just seems too meaningless. Like, what's the point in doing that calculus homework when you're not going to be solving quadratic equations at the cashier? But hey, you gotta get the work done, and let's just artificially add incentives to it to give yourself something to look forward to once you have done the work. Whether it is to meet up with your friends, or there's a long video or movie that you wanted to watch for a long time. You know what? Just allow yourselves to do those things after the work is done. But as we all know, motivation is clearly not enough. And you need to force yourself to have some sort of urgency to do the work. And to do that, you will need an accountability partner that you would send your completed work to at the end of the day. Set a punishment beforehand for yourself if your partner doesn't receive the work. To give a simple analogy, it is like Doraemon running away from a mouse and running towards a dorayaki. And it is precisely having both of these things present there that made him run at the speed he's going at. Oh, and by the way, if you are like me and struggle with starting with a certain task, start with a different part of the task first. For example, some people, like me, prefer the theory part and watch a lot of lectures and read notes first, while some people prefer to take action and do practice papers and worksheets first, but hate theory. And from past experience, even if the method you choose is less effective, just do the one you prefer first. It's way better to do that one first, and then bridge it into the one that you're not so comfortable with, rather than just being stuck there, not doing anything, and procrastinating.